everyone, my name is Sam and thanks for checking out my video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and give it a thumbs up. So as the title of this video suggests, as kind of a teaser, as like, I'm Ryan Seacrest right now, like holding back the reveal of who has won or lost American Idol. I wanted to go over the books that didn't make this list of the top 12 books kind of ish that I read this year, but were definitely honorable mentions. So the first book that is an honorable mention for this year is The Valiant by Leslie Livingston. I absolutely loved this book. I had heard such very mixed things about it, but I mean the title kind of says it, the cover kind of says it, and the little blurb says it. Princess, Captive, and Gladiator. So it is a story about a girl who is a princess in a Celtic village area, I think it is, and through a couple series of events in the first couple chapters, gets picked up as a slave and brought to Rome, where she becomes a gladiator, which is really cool. I don't even know if I've read a gladiator story at all, but I don't think I've really ever read a female gladiator story, period, or even seen one on TV. And this book actually made me want to sit down and watch Spartacus, which I don't think I still haven't really done that. The sequel to this book called The Defiant is coming out in February, and I have that pre-ordered, and I'm super excited to pick that up. Another really cool reason that I liked this book I found it after the fact, but it made me love it even more, is that Leslie Livingston is a Canadian author, which are pretty rare in YA big publishing. So I was, it just gave it an extra little point. This book was pretty creative, and it didn't hold back in, like, the gore the way that kind of YA does. There are books that, like, by Sarah J. Maas and, like, Jay Kristoff and all that stuff, that they go that extra mile and, like, talk about the gore rather than just, like, kind of glossing over it. And I feel like that book kind of straddled between, like, being super gory and, like, having a fairy tale-y kind of situation. So I really enjoyed that. And just kind of the world building and get to see these characters. I think Julius Caesar was mentioned in there, and like, just, you can stop and be like, I know who they're talking about. That's so cool. So I would really highly recommend this book. It was just a really, really enjoyable read. There wasn't anything in particular that stood out about it. I just walked away and was like, I am so excited for the sequel. There's family lineage reveals and like heartbreaking romance, and then like heart-lifting romance, and like, yeah, I'm so curious to see where this goes. And I love like the feminist kind of perspective of like, women can be gladiators too and fight their own battles. And yeah, I am just so excited for the sequel. I'm going to be rereading this book in January, I think, or in February to be ready, just kind of refresh my memory for when the sequel comes out. The second honorable mention is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I had this book on my bookshelf for like almost like 6 or 7 months, and I honestly wasn't even sure if I was going to actually read it. I bought it because the author has the same first name as me. So The Bone Season, I actually read this book twice in 1 month. I absolutely loved it, and I read the sequel, The Mime Order. I plan on reading the third book, The Song Rising, once I find out when the fourth book is coming out. I believe it's supposed to be 7 books in total, and it's been optioned off to be made into a TV show, so that is interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on that. I hope it actually does happen because it has some really cool potential. So it is a dystopian set in, I believe it's like London, where essentially kind of like there's another like dimension, like alien kind of people have come in and like very subtly taken over, and like general people don't realize that, and then people that have all these extra powers have been kind of rounded up, and the main character is one of these characters, and she kind of starts like a rebellion, as all YA adultish books do when there is a dystopian. And it was just so cool, and I was mind blown that this was a debut author. That the writing quality in this does not make sense for her to be a debut author. This book, for the most part, focuses on that start of the rebellion. The sequel kind of goes into like the underworld and all that stuff outside of like the fortress where all this book takes place. And there's a romance that like the ending just made me cry. It was so sad. It was just like such a very like long thought out book, and like there's like a little glossary of terms at the back because there is certain things, but I mean like sometimes I can find that distracting if I have to keep flipping back and forth. But I just kind of kept being like, yeah, okay, yeah, I don't care that I don't really technically know what that word is. I'll figure it out later. It'll all make sense. I just need to know what's going to happen. So I would really highly recommend this book. I liked this book a little bit more than The Mime Order, but really enjoyed The Mime Order as well. So I am really, really hoping I'm going to like The Song Rising too. The next honorable mention is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash. I read the entire trilogy this year and caught up, so I'm ready for These Rebel Waves to come out. It's a different series, but I still feel the urge to like catch up on their other work before getting new stuff. This is a fantasy world where there are 4 rhythm kingdoms and 4 season kingdoms, and the season for winter, which is named January, was invaded and attacked when the last queen was killed, and it starts off with the handful of refugees that survived that are trying to pick up literally like pieces of jewelry or like medallion kind of things, I don't remember what the word is, in order to get the powers back. Their real problem is that the majority of their people that are still alive are in work camps around a couple of the different kingdoms. So this series kind of goes through them trying to find allies in order to get those people back. The real big conundrum in this book is that each kingdom normally has the powers that the monarch is supposed to have go to a specific gender. So the queen in January was supposed to pass it along to her female heir, but she died before giving birth to a female heir. So it starts with her male heir and the ragtag group trying to get their kingdom back. And I enjoyed this book so much. This whole series I just really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just kind of like automatically assume I'm going to enjoy all of her stuff now, even though I've only read one trilogy. But I just found like all of the romance and the world development and the family and the relationships so well done and so slyly done that like when things started to happen when they needed those relationships, I realized I was like, oh my god, we just spent like 50 pages like building this and I didn't even know. So yeah, I would really, really highly, highly recommend this trilogy. The next honorable mention is Royal Bastards by Andrew Schwartz. So, I mean, not only is this cover really cool, and the title is honestly what got me. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll pre-order it. And I pre-ordered it based on the title and didn't read the summary. So the title is actually pretty telling of this story. So the main characters in this book are, as the title suggests, bastards of the major one is the king. And so the book really starts off with a big betrayal of potentially like a trick to try and get someone to ally with them. And then these people kind of come together despite being from conflicting kingdoms and work together on a quest. And it ends when I was like, oh, that's a good wrap up. And I thought it was a standalone. And then I sat there for a few minutes. I was like, wait. They didn't fix this plot. It's still open. And then they changed it on Goodreads from being a standalone to a series. So City of Bastards is coming out in, I think, May or June, I want to say. And I am so excited about that book. Just the characters were so freaking likable, and there's a little bit of a romance going on that I really enjoyed. And just like the relationships were just so sweet, and the questing was fun, and like there's a little bit of fighting and sword battling and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was just a really, really cool book. I really enjoyed this, and it's debut work, and I don't understand why there's so many mixed reviews on Goodreads about this, because every single person I know who's read this book loved it. So I, amongst many other people, are eagerly awaiting the sequel to come out in 2018. This book just got cut. It was my 13th pick for my best favorite book of, well, 13-ish. It was almost there, but I just had to cut it down. So Even the Darkest Stars by Heather Fawcett. I loved this book though. Oh, the cover is really, really cool too. And there's like a pet fox and I want one now. And the whole, like every character in this book is morally gray, and it was infuriating, but in a good way. And I'm so intrigued to see where it goes. There was like a potential, well, I mean, it was pretty blatantly like romance, and then there's like just they try and draw lines in the sand, and like they do it at the end, but you know that that's not, everyone's still straddling that line. And the questing and like the relationship, and I love the main character. She is such a hot mess in the beginning, and instead of kind of like rewriting her character as they went through, the author managed to just build off of that character traits and just kind of show the other traits that she had, rather than like rewriting everything from the beginning. So I'm so curious about the sequel that comes out again in 2018, and I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering the sequel. Another big like hit for me is like there's a cartographer in this. Like she's like a map reader, and like the magic and the witches, and like there's so much grayness in this book that it just lets your mind run wild, but at the same time, like, there's, like, kind of where a lot of the stuff is going, but you just need to see it happen. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I kind of want the main character, to just go full, like, evil for this book, and just, like, that would be how it ended, because that never happens in books, which I would really like to see. So, yeah, I am, pretty excited about this book, and really, really, really highly recommend this book for sure. The second to last honorable mention that I have is Nevernight. This is another one that I picked off Book Outlet just because I was like, oh, the cover looks cool, didn't read the summary, and then it got picked as the book of the month in the Life and Lit Facebook group a couple months ago, and oh my god. I read it like literally, I think I finished it like the day before God's Grave, the sequel, came out. This book is so dark and violent and gory, and I love it, and it made me evaluate my love of that. So as the cover kind of perfectly shows, there is kind of like an assassin society, and the main girl is in that, and she is a badass, and there's a little bit of, you know what, I think my real love of this book too is there's romance, but it's not like a, oh, you're both 16 and you are attracted to each other, you are forever now together, you love each other, that is all you get, it's a happily ever after. Definitely no. And there's, oh my god, betrayal at the end, and then the second book, the end of it, like, just, I don't understand. And the last time I checked, we don't even know the title or the release date or the summary of the third book, and I need it now. I shouldn't have read God's Grave as fast as I did. So this book is very much focusing on the assassin kind of society and like how it's hidden from this world, and kind of the development of all these like secret societies and the mythology and the background of everything in this. And then God's Grave kind of switches to be like Roman Gladiator with assassins. So it's so interesting, and Jay Kristoff just, people seem to either love or hate his writing. I really, really enjoy it. He's got footnotes in this one. He also wrote Illuminae with Amy Kaufman, which has like all these government redacted stuff. So he just kind of like thinks outside the box in general. This book kind of perfectly shows it. Because of this book, I'm actually looking at buying his other trilogy. I can't remember the name of it, but it looked really cool, and all people told me was like, yeah, it'll crush your heart just like Nevernight and Illuminae did, so I got that to look forward to, I guess. And the last book, for sure, on this honorable mentions list, which I realize is long, but I couldn't cut it down anymore, I'm sorry. A Court of Mist and Fury. I started A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I think like the second last week of May, and then Mist of Fury, and then I was ready for when Wings and Ruin came out, just in case I liked it. I had seen Mass's covers in bookstores before, but the covers alone are kind of like exactly what I don't like about covers. Like they're just like a half person kind of face kind of thing. I remember seeing the Throne of Glass book, like the first one, and being like, that is a horrible cover. And I mean, they're a little bit better now. Not super, but oh my god, the stories. She ripped my heart out. I mean, like, people like kind of like have this like debate about the whole like sexual content in her books because it is new adult, but bookstores and libraries and stuff, that's not a classification that we have at this moment. It's either juvenile, YA, or adult. So this book kind of like bounces back and forth no matter where you are. I find that discussion actually super interesting because discussion never seems to happen around violence in YA. And there is so much more violence, and it's potential. Honestly, I feel like that's a whole lot more harmful. I actually really appreciate that Mass wrote characters that do have a healthy relationship. Like, they also don't just get married to the first person that they're attracted to. They've got a past, you've got a past, everyone has history, and you can work together, and you can leave that person if it's not working, and you're not automatically tied to them because you've slept with them. So I really appreciated that. I also have read Outlander. I mean, like, Outlander's pretty, I don't think graphic is supposed to be. I mean, it discusses and goes through the scenes when there is intercourse between couples. So I absolutely loved this book. So I was like, I remember hearing about the fandom being like, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses then, and I was like, I don't understand why people are Team Reese. He's kind of a douchebag, and like, he does some really questionable things. And I remember messaging my friend being like, I am never going to be able to be a Team Reese person. It's just not going to happen. And then I picked this book up. And people were like, oh, chapter 55 is when it really, really happens. And I was like, okay. And like kind of switched to chapter 55 without even beginning it. And then I saw the names of what was of who was doing what, and I was like, wait, no, this isn't happening. So I ran to the beginning. I was like, maybe it's just a dream, or I'm misunderstanding something. And I got to chapter like 20, and I was like, oh my god, I'm Team Reese. This is definitely my favorite book of the 3 books that are out so far. I am so excited about the novella that is coming out because, I mean, Mass promised us a wall scene. That is all that I am saying, and just read this book series. I don't understand how Mass manages to give me such emotional whiplash, and despite this book being like, I think it's like 800 pages or something like that. Sorry, this book is like over 600 pages. I think I read it in a day and a half while I was working full-time, so yeah, just read it. Do yourself a favor and read it. So those are my honorable mentions of my 12 books of favorite books of the year, 12 days of Christmas thing. Let me know if you've read any of these and liked or disliked them. Also check the description box down below where all of my social media is linked. If you follow me, I will follow you back.